Hello and welcome to the second episode of Mod Review, where I'll be looking at different mods to see if they're any good. Right, today we're looking at the Vampire Knives Expanded mod, which expands the Vampire Knives and has different knives at different points in the game. So the first thing we're going to need to know are the basics. So these are the crafting stations that we're going to need. First thing we're going to need is a knife work table, which requires the Vampire Knives, 75 obsidian, and 10 stable crimson crystals. Now, these crystals require 1 super glue, which then requires a bottle, 10 tissue samples or shadow scales. As an alchemy table, note that this super glue can drop from bosses as well. And to get the unstable crimson crystal, we need 4 crimson shards. Now these can, I believe, can be dropped from crimson monsters or their counterpart in the corruption as well. Also, we're going to need the knife work table, which requires 8 iron bars and 10 wood. And this is what they look like, as I've already placed them down. I must say, this is a gorgeous sprite. This is the knife work table, and this is the knife workbench. Oh, that's interesting. It also looks like the knife workbench does have a storage unit in it as well. That's always useful. Right, so now we're going to look at some basic knives. So in here I have the materials required to make the Knight's Edge, and the true Knight's Edge knife, and the Excalibur version as well. So first we're going to need 12 stingers and 12 jungle spores to make the viney knives. We're going to need 8 living fire blocks, 12 hailstone bars to make the tormenting spikes. We're going to need 3 rotten chunks, 8 demonite bars and a light's bane to make the corrupt star. And finally, to make Sengos forgotten blades, we need 15 bones, 1 gold key and 1 muramasa. And these can all be upgraded at a furnace for some reason to make the penumbra. Then, with the broken hero knives, which drop from Mothron, you can in fact upgrade it to the umbra. And we have the Excalibur version, which is Arthur's Keladovich, I believe, which can be made with hallowed bars. This can also be upgraded with broken hero knives to Arthur's true Keladovich. Let's try all of these weapons, see what they look like. So let's try them out on a few king slimes. First of all, the viney knives. It should also be mentioned that all these knives do lifesteal, just like the vampire knives. Also, you may have noticed this meter in the top right up here. That is your blood meter, and whenever you attack, depending on how much damage, that fills up. And the higher this is, the more lifesteal you do. So at the moment I've got about 500, and that means I do get about 4 or 5, but once it gets to 1,000, I'll be getting more like 7s, 8s. So you genuinely just get more lifesteal. And with this we end up getting 10. So this is the true Arthur's Keladovich. This is the Umbra. As you can see, it's just the projectiles from their melee counterparts. And there we see that the king slime did in fact drop the super glue. Right, so now we're going to look at some more knives. So first of all, we're going to need the iron knives, which is made surprisingly with 8 iron bars. These can then be upgraded to the mana knives with a stable corruption crystal and the iron knives. The stable corruption crystal can be gotten the same way as the stable crimson crystal, but only on a corruption world, which makes these knives exclusive to corruption worlds. The iron knives can also be upgraded with 35 honey blocks to the bee knives. And I've got a few more knives down here. So we've got the wyvern head, which drops from wyverns, harpy knives, which drop from harpies, blooming terror, which drops from plantera, and the spectre glove, which I think requires ectoplasm. And at the end of the game, we can make knives from all the fragments and then upgrade them at the end. So with 18 Stardust fragments, we make the Stardust knives, 18 Nebula fragments, we make the Nebula knives, 18 Vortex fragments, we make the Vortex knives, and 18 Solar fragments, we make the Solar knives. These can then all be upgraded to make the Astronomical Singularity, which means that this weapon can in fact become full moon mode if you craft it quick enough. So let's test it on a boss. I think this time we'll do it against the Eye of Cthulhu. So let's just quickly change it to night, and here it comes. And there it goes. So as you can see, this weapon is definitely viable against at least the Eye of Cthulhu. However, not all knives are constantly used. Some of them are in fact require consumables. So I've got 3 examples here. I've got molten knives, mithril knives, and the palladium blades. And each of these require the palladium throwing knives, cobalt throwing knives, or any other knife basically that can be made from essentially every bar. So as you can see, I can't use them. Then when I have these in my inventory, I can. It's an interesting sound effect. So basically, these knives can only be used when we have some form of ammo. So these ones are in fact ammo. Now, not all knives are offensive. We do actually have some defensive knives. So essentially, from 36 of every bar plus ectoplasm, we can in fact get defensive knives. Now, these are very interesting as they create a blockade around the player. This, however, does lag your game, and as you can see, I am experiencing some slowdown. But if we just quickly grab a few out, we can test some. So test a few of these on a boss. Now these don't do damage, I don't think, or at least not all of them. I think this one does damage, or if it does, it's more passive. So as you can see, it just sort of, well, it stops the boss from getting to you, which means I can just sit here and swing my sword. Oh, he's trying to get through, but you can't. Now, I believe this one, yeah, see, some of them do attack, albeit in a very, very, very weak way. But the main purpose for these definitely is for defense. Oh, now this Luminite one, the elemental defense knives, that one seems to have a strong attack. It inflicts a debuff. Whoa, that slime went flying. But the main purpose, as I said, for these is to just create a barrier for the player. So I can just throw one up there. And I'm now safe from attack from inside when I'm defending these points. They do a little bit of damage, particularly these endgame ones. But as I constantly say, these are not offensive, these are defensive knives. Which means that these can in fact defend you from things like the Phantasmal Death Ray from the Moon Lord, which is definitely something you want to be avoiding, particularly in expert mode, or even master mode when that comes around. And this Shroomite one seems to be doing the most damage. These Spore Clouds seems to be doing quite a bit. So yeah, those were defensive knives. So the last thing we're going to look at is some of the accessories. Now, these accessories can upgrade your knives. They add different effects, so depending on what flask you use, depends on what effect you get. So with Venom Flask, we can have venom on our knives. If we have Cursed Flames, we have Cursed Flamestone knives, etc, etc. Now, to make the pre-hard mode ones, you only need silk and the flasks to make the respective hoods, but in hard mode you need the flasks and magical plant silk. Now this magical plant silk you get from Plantera. It's a drop, which drops about 40 or 50 each time, so you have plenty. And We can also make the sharpening rod, which has 30% knife damage, which is always nice, with 3 illuminite bars. So let's have a look at some of these. Let's try the party one as well. If we get out a strong astronomical singularity, and there we go, that is a hefty damage increase. We go from 80 to 104. We also gained 15% crit strike as well. But let's try the eye. Wherever he is, he's over here. Oh yeah, that is much faster. Now, if we try some of the hoods, so if we have the party runs, we think we gain some form of party effect, which, if we just have a look, yep, we gain confetti on our attacks. Can't imagine how useful that would be. We can actually have multiple hoods on as well, which is another thing to know. Now we've got venom as well, so as you can see it does inflict the venom debuff. So these hoods are incredibly useful, as they will just give debuffs and just boost your damage output. You can get some ones in pre-hard mode as well, so we can get the fire one, which will probably be the most useful pre-hard mode one. We can also get a Midas one, which is interesting, which means that we can actually boost our money, which I know can be a bit of a pain. So let's see how much it drops. This time we get, I think we got 9 gold out of that, which is quite a lot of money actually from just one boss. We haven't even opened the treasure bag, so we got 10 gold from that. Right, well that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. If you are interested in me doing a knife only run, so when I go from the start of the game all the way to defeating the Moon Lord just using the knives from these mods, please let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.